gonna be talking in reference to just cheer in general, but mostly all-star. So first thing I'm gonna explain is like the divisions. So there's a few things that you get like separated into. There's level, age group, and gender. So there's seven levels, but typically it's gonna be levels 1 through 6 because level 7 teams are pretty rare. But levels are based mostly on tumbling. I'm not gonna say that you're not gonna make a team because of stunting, because that did in fact kind of happen to me. But tumbling is harder to get other than stunting. So if you go in with a double, but you're not the best at stunting, you have a chance at making a level 16. Not always. So you get based off your leveling, and that's levels 1 through 6. And then there's divisions. So that's like how big your team is. So there's extra small, medium, and large. I'm pretty sure there might be an extra large team, but that's just based on the number of athletes. I honestly don't know the numbers for that, but that's just like how much it is. And then there's age groups, so there's genders, and that's all girl and co-ed. There's also like D1 and D2 gyms, but that's also if you're like going to varsity or cheer and dance extreme like comps, which are just 2 different brands pretty much, and you can go to both or you can just go to one or the other. But that depends how many athletes you have on the team, but honestly that doesn't like really matter, to be honest. Also, for those who don't really know, so cheer, all-star cheer is not about cheering for a team, it's about cheering for a program. So there's actually no actual like cheering from the standpoint of like there's no like shouting and yelling, and typically there's no signs or even pom-poms. And pretty much I'm like under a program, so Maryland Twisters Virginia is me, but then Quake is the team I'm on, which is medium senior 5, all girl. So I'm gonna put a thing right here, and that is the different stunting positions. So you have your main and side base. So when, let's say you're doing a lib, which is when one flyer's leg is up and one is like on like being held, there's gonna be one person holding the foot like this and one person holding the foot like this, like getting the heel and the toe. The person with the heel and the toe is called the main base, and the person in the middle, like this, is called the side base. Unless you're on higher level teams, this won't really matter from like the spinning standpoint, but I guess it could technically matter for like level 1. And then there's the back spot, who is typically holding the thigh or the butt or the ankle or both. It honestly varies on the stunt, but the back spots are there to take off some weight and lift a little bit, but typically they're there for balance. And then in higher levels, or I guess even some lower levels, there's a front spot, whose job is to take some of the weight off the back spot and base's hands, and they're also there to help with balance and to catch the flyer if she falls to the front. Some people also ask me what to expect going into all-star tryouts, and honestly that would be expect to do a few running passes, which is where you're going forward. So they typically start with a front punch, front walkover, cartwheel, or a round off, but they could start with a few other things, but you're going forwards. And then a standing tumbling pass, which is where you would just start just going backwards. So I could start with a standing whip, which is kind of uncommon, but back walkovers, back handsprings, back walkover switch, Valdez, anything where you're going backwards, if that makes sense. Also expect to do a few jumps. There's the jump where both your legs are just like up like that. It's kind of like a split jump, but they're more in front of you, and that is called a toe touch. And then there's a jump where it's kind of like this, and your back leg is like bent, but it's backwards. And then your front leg is going forward, kind of like a split jump, but your back leg is bent. So it's kind of like a wolf jump if you have like a gymnastics background, except instead of like your knees being together, you're like it's a split jump, but your back leg is bent. And then there's a pike jump, which is literally where your legs are just both together and going to the side like that, and that's pretty simple. Another big thing, and I didn't think anyone really would like understand this or not, but clean. And I didn't understand what this meant, but clean is literally, it's one of the most important things in cheer. It is when you're standing and your arms are glued to your side, and they're not just like down, but they're glued to your side. Some gyms will even have you almost like cuff like that, but most gyms typically have you to the side like that. You will probably clean 50 times in your routine, and speaking of routines, they're normally 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Also, you'll hear a lot of hit this motion on 1, 2. What that means is you hit 1, hold 2. If you hold this motion 3, 4, 3, 4, it's not 3, 4. You have to hit it, and that means you hold it. That doesn't mean you have 2 counts to actually hit that position, if that makes sense. And a few other things that are just basic is when the flyer is in, so they're going to be like this, their legs are going to be bent, and their feet are in the base's hands. The bases are going to be like this. This is called smush. This level is called prep, and this is called extension. Also, I'll explain like the few basic like parts of a routine. So first is opening. This is always the beginning part, and this is just your beginning position. And then there's baskets, and that's when the base's arms are like this, connecting and like makes a little square. And then they throw up, and then the flyer, depending on the level, will do some sort of trick in the air, maybe with a twist, maybe they'll just do a straight ride if it's level 1. Also, the middle stuff can honestly be in any order, but except for opening. Opening is always first. And then there's standing tumbling, which is where, like I explained earlier what standing tumbling is, but it's a bunch of people do it, like a majority of the team does it. And then there's running tumbling, where people go from different corners, and honestly, it's one of my favorite things to watch. And then there's jumps, so typically, like 95% of the team is in jumps, and you just do 3 of the jumps. Normally 2 of them are connected, and then you do one jump separately. And then there's dance, which is where your whole team just busts a move. There's also first and second stunt. It can also be called main and elite, and that's just that's 2 different kinds of stunts you have, where the flyers are not connected to each other. The flyers are in their own groups, isolated, and typically one is longer than the other. Typically second stunt is longer, but that can like obviously change. And then there's pyramid, which means 2 flyers have to be connected at all times. So typically their arms are like grasped like this. This is my favorite thing to watch and my least favorite thing to do. I do not like doing pyramid. It is exhausting, but it is really cool to watch. I think that's it. But I also thought I would show like some of my like favorite like cheer hacks. So for bows, they might give you a really flimsy bow, and you're gonna get some toilet paper or paper towels and stuff it into like the 2 like hoops of the bow, and then spray with hairspray and let it dry for like an hour, and your bow will be stiff and like stand up on its own. I always do this, and people can call me crazy, but cheer hair has to be big typically, so I will just stick under my ponytail just a bunch of extra bobby pins, because backstage, make sure they're in there good so they don't fall out, but make sure that like I have a few extra, because there's always someone backstage who ends up needing it. If you're wondering how we get our hair so high, I do not use a hairpiece, but many people in All-Star Cheer do have fake hair or like a fake ponytail. They're called poshes or weaves, and that's like how some people get their hair so high. I just use my own hair, which is partly why my hair is damaged, but yeah. It's also very helpful to get our hair stick. That's how our hair stays up in that high ponytail, is because we get hair wax sticks. I like the Varsity and the bedhead one. And honestly, our ponytails would not be looking that good without the bows, because the bows hide the rat's nest that is behind that, making our ponytail so high. Honestly, I think that's it. I don't really know what else there is to say, but if you have any more questions, please comment them, and I will get to them as soon as I possibly can. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. Bye, y'all. Also, I hope this helps newer cheer moms, because my mom and me both had no idea what to expect going into All-Star Cheer. And if you need questions on leveling, you can comment them, but also if you go to the Varsity Cheer website, they have so much things that can help you. You can also see the leveling sheets, because the leveling sheets and the things that you can get deducted points for change at least 3 times every season. So it's very good to check that, and also make sure to follow Varsity on Instagram, and that actually helps a lot.